The concept of a film series or franchise is not new to Hollywood or the rest of the world. Today, a sizable number of movies and TV shows are sequels or part of a larger universe to give them access to a built-in fan base. More than 50 years ago, small-time European studios were surviving by making imitations of Sergio Leone's A Fistful of Dollars, which had kickstarted the spaghetti western genre. For long-term success, they desperately needed a symbol, a named character who could be copied and reused and still keep the box office going. In other words, they needed a franchise. The wait wasn't long. In 1966, a movie emerged that would spawn almost 100 unofficial sequels and create the most successful fake franchise to ever exist.
Django! Django, have you always been alone? Django!
Like A Fistful of Dollars, Sergio Corbucci's Django was an unofficial remake of Akira Kurosawa's Yojimbo. The film became a huge success thanks to Corbucci's direction, lead actor Franco Nero's screen presence, and the ultra-violence that it pioneered, which has since gone on to become a staple of action movies everywhere. Both Corbucci and Nero soon moved on to other projects, but the sweet taste of success was too difficult to let go for the genre's distributors, especially those in countries like Italy, Denmark, Japan, and Germany, where the movie did monster business. The first sign of trouble was when Franco Nero's film right after Django, Massacre Time, was immediately repackaged as a Django movie, just to cash in on the name and Nero's presence. When this was a success, his very next film, Texas Adios, went through the same treatment despite his character not being Django in this film either. But this was also successful, so local filmmakers joined the fun and started making their own Django sequels without Nero in them, some better than others, all taking advantage of the weak copyright laws in Italy at the time. In 1966 alone, there was one official Django and about 8 unofficial sequels or renamed films. Because these movies kept making money, the madness only intensified. By the late 60s, desperate exhibitors started taking old westerns, some of which were made even before the original film, and re-released them with Django in the title. Several films followed that were named Django, but no one called Django even appears in these movies. By the time audiences realized this, it was already too late. But still, the allure of the original film was so great that even these rip-offs kept the box office ticking. At one point, there were so many simultaneous Django clones and re-releases and copies in theaters that German distributors just ran out of Django titles and they named one of their films Schmango. Schmango became a hit. So filmmakers took this as their cue to now have titles rhyming with Django. After Schmango, they made Chumango. Chumango was such a huge success that it even had its own official sequel. Chumango 2 finally brought everything full circle by having its own re-release, this time as a Django film. When the spaghetti western genre finally ended in the early 1980s, there were too many Django films to even count. Franco Nero himself appeared as Django one more time in 1987 with Django Strikes Again, the only official Django sequel and the end of the series. While images from Django continue to be recycled in cinema, the name was revived briefly for Takashi Miike's Japanese western parody Sukiyaki Western Django, featuring a cameo by Quentin Tarantino himself, who would go on to finally give the Django series its mainstream homecoming with the sensational Django Unchained, a critical and commercial success. Today, Django can only be called a franchise because of all the money it made by most distributors duping audiences into thinking that these movies belong together in one extended Django series. But all can be forgiven simply because it gave us the greatest pronunciation lesson of all time.
D-J-A-N-G-O. The D is silent.
I know. Django! Django, have you always